The final day of April, Preston Thorne. The final day of April as we are just motoring through 2025. And you'll be off to Cross.
Going to the big city of Cross, big town of Cross, South Carolina.
The home of Rod Wilson. Maybe he'll get a statue down there, much like Don Staley's getting a statue.
I don't know if Rod will get a statue in Cross because Rod is one of the many Wilsons who have done very well down there. But I will say that one time I went to Cross with Rod Wilson. Rod had a Mustang at the time, and I promise, he says I'm exaggerating. He says it's a story. He says it's all made up. But when we were going down the main strip of Cross, there were little kids coming out of their house running behind the Mustang saying, like, Rod is home. Rod is home. I promise that happened. He says it didn't happen, but I know what happened when I went to Cross with Rod Wilson. But, yes, we're going down to the big city of Cross, South Carolina.
So Preston will be with us for an hour this morning before he is off to Cross, South Carolina, and then we will have plenty to discuss. It was actually a very interesting Tuesday, Preston. Lots of things kind of popping up, whether it was NHL and NBA playoffs last night.
Fantastic.
It really was.
Fantastic.
What were you fully invested in? What was there a particular game?
I'm in the NBA, man. I'm here. Knicks, Pistons. Oh, that's a lot of fun.
Pacers do it in overtime.
Pacers. Oh, man, Giannis. We got to see Giannis mad. We don't see this often. The nicest guy in the NBA was mad.
Well, and I think Tyrese Halliburton's father was
a clown.
Was a clown, yeah. But I also felt like this was Giannis looking around being like, I'm in Milwaukee. Yeah, we're not going to win a championship
he's definitely
now.
Lashing out, no doubt. And it's just fascinating because Giannis is A1 human being in the NBA, and to see that emotion out of him was tremendous. Yeah, NBA playoffs are terrific.
It was, yeah. Last night was really, really good, as you just said, and yeah, you had the Knicks and the Pistons. We're going to get another game out of this thing.
Yep.
I got into that a little bit last night. There's a 90s-esque nostalgic throwback to this Pistons bad boys.
Absolutely.
Knicks, just let's score 60 points in an NBA game and win. Now, last night was 106-103. But
it barely got over 100. It was not a scoring fest. Yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia there. The Garden, obviously. You see Jalen Brunson. He plays sort of an old man style of basketball. He backs people down. It's a fun game, especially for probably folks of my age to watch. It's been a really, really interesting series.
NBA last night, if you didn't get into it, very good. Indiana wins by a point in overtime. They in that series, they move on. We told you if you've not been watching NBA, you're going to look around and be like, oh, the Pacers are back. Is Reggie Miller playing? Is old Rick Smits, the Flying Dutchman, just doing stuff? No,
but I looked it up like Rick Carlisle. Huh. Look at that guy on the sideline. He's balder now than he was. He's older than he was. Skinnier than he was. I was like, look at that. Rick Carlisle on the sideline.
Pistons 106-103 over the Knicks. Keeps that series alive. Boston thrashes Orlando, ends that series. And then late last night, didn't make it to the end of this one. Denver and the Clippers. Denver, I think you can put a wrap on Denver, but they're like the wrestler. That hand is up. It's not down yet. It's holding on.
Jamal Murray had a great game. I mean, the West Coast games are impossible. That's a really difficult task, especially for folks who get up and do a morning show. But seeing the highlights, man, Jamal Murray had a great game. Russell Westbrook is screaming in people's faces, doing the ultimate Russell Westbrook thing.
Yeah,
he's
that
back. Guy. he's missing shots. He's making shots. He's running
triple doubles on 49 shots.
Oh man, it's signature Russ. It's really fun to watch, man.
NHL last night was phenomenal. If you're a Hurricanes fan, and as I've told Preston, this isn't a free agent situation like you with the Vikings, because that's understandable.
You're committed.
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in. We're going to go buy the Garden flag for the Hurricanes next year and have that up to go along with the Braves and the Gamecocks. A little flag, the very odd thing that I've gotten to lately. But Carolina wins in double overtime last night, Preston. It was one of the more fun. They got down 3-0. I'm telling you what, and I will bang the drum all day long. And the NBA playoffs have been good, but I will bang the drum all day long for the NHL playoffs. The way it's played, the speed, the intensity, goals can just happen. Literally, New Jersey scored 2 goals in a matter of seconds, I felt like. They actually scored 3 in the first period. It looked like they were going to run away with it. But they scored 1 goal to go up 1-0, and then a minute and 30 seconds apart, they had 2 more goals in the first period to go up 3-0. And you're like, well, okay, Canes are up 3-1. Give them a game. You get 2 more to clinch it. Canes come roaring back, and they scored in the second period. They scored 2 goals in the matter of a minute and 40 seconds that ended up cutting the lead to 1, and then before the end of the second period, they had tied it. So it goes from 3-0 to 4-4, and then there's no goals until the second overtime when Sebastian Aho last night knocked one in. And I'm telling you, I was staying up. I was fighting it. It's one of those nights where you're like, all right, I've invested like 3 hours into this thing. I'm ready to go to bed. Somebody please just score a goal. There was a phenomenal hockey match last night. I believe that was on TNT is what I was watching it on. And then you had also Minnesota and Vegas, which has been a very good series. That went to overtime, and Vegas gets a goal in that 3-2. It was a playoff-wise an incredible night.
The playoffs are delivering. The playoffs are delivering on both sides. And again, this is early in the playoffs, so it's looking forward to a lot of fun.
Gamecock baseball last night, Preston. They keep the streak alive.
Perfect. Streak is still rolling, baby. 21-0. 21-0.
And we'll get into this morning a little bit because Paul Mainieri had some things to say. The second time he said it this year.
Hey, listen. I really appreciate you all listening. I'm glad you're tuned in early. We say a lot of things wrong, but we also say a lot of things right. And we're going to play the clip from 4:14, I believe, where Preston Thorne and Bill Gunner said as much as these words that came out of Paul Mainieri's mouth.
We'll revisit that because, yes, South Carolina baseball has been great, phenomenal, whatever exciting adjective you want to use against quad 3 and 4 teams.
We got them.
The good teams? Not so much. The SEC teams, the top 25 teams, no, not so much. So we'll get into that. But South Carolina last night does knock off Charleston Southern to they've got one more midweek game. Last night, though, 5-3. No grand slams, opportunities for grand slams, no grand slams. So our Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway rolls on. The pot now $350 for that. Just go to 1075thegame.com and register for the Palmetto Citizens Grand Slam giveaway. And then there was the other news yesterday. It turns out the transfer portal can spit you right back out. Portal can suck you in and look around and be like, nope, not your time, young fella, and kick you back on out.
This might be an experience that young kids won't ever experience again, but you know how you used to have to put $1 into the soda machine?
Yeah.
And it goes in and you hope it's going to take it, and then it spits it back out, and you got to straighten it out. You got to rub it against the side of the corner of the door or something, rub it against the thing, and you put it back in, and you're like, yeah, come on, please, 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 please. And it spits it back out again. Maybe that's what it's like. Or maybe it's you put the $1 in, and then in 4 quarters of change comes down.
That's a good one.
They put Cam Scott in as $1, and he came out change.
He came out as just a change now.
I don't know.
Two quarters and 5 dimes. Well, we'll find out. We will talk about this morning as Cam Scott announces yesterday his return to the University of South Carolina. We'll get into that on multiple sides. Got a lot to do this morning. Again, Preston's here for about an hour. We'll get into that. We'll get into the baseball a little bit. And then SEC coaches rankings, Preston Thorne.
Oh, man, I'm sad I'm going to miss this.
Is number 8 too low? Is it too high? Should he be behind Eli Drinkowitz? Oh, we're going to do Angry Radio for a little bit.
What a perfect ranking for talk radio. 8. Right there.
Right.
Who's above him? Who's below him?
And we're not only going, since you got to be out, I'm going to bring on David Waters with Gatorbait.com, who's more upset because Billy Napier's at 15.
Nice.
So we're going to get into that. And then as all that wasn't enough, Preston Thorne, well, after the weekend, now there's UNC representatives going, this might not work. This looks concerning.
You don't say.
Reports coming out yesterday that North Carolina might be concerned about the influence that Jordan has on Old Chapel Bill. And not the good Jordan, not Michael Jordan.
Stop. See what you did there.
Yeah. So a lot to do. A lot to do.
Nobody's photoshopped her logo on the
Not yet.
UNC uniform yet. Hey, photoshoppers, get to it. Instead of having the Jordan flying logo, get the Bill Belichick with Jordan Hudson's sprawled out over his legs. You know how they did that on the beach?
On the beach,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
yoga stance or whatever they called it.
Put that one on the jersey.
There is a lot.
There's a tip from Preston.
There is a lot going on. We'll try and get to as much as we can with Preston. Again, David Waters of GatorBait.com set to come up this morning at 7:30. Jamie Shaw of On3 Sports, basketball recruiting analyst, will join us at 8:15 this morning to talk about the Gamecock transfer portal haul so far, what he's seeing from that, and the impact of Cam Scott coming back. So a lot to do, a lot to get into. If you want to be a part of it, 803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in if you want to do so this morning. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, where the springtacular deals, well, they are always in full bloom. That's right. You need to get out to Love Chevrolet today. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, where you will find exclusive specials, exclusive only to Love Chevrolet on Suburbans, Tahoes, and Silverados. The entire lineup of award-winning Chevys on the lot right now, 14 acres to choose from, and they are ready to go. So get out to Love Chevrolet today, where not only are you going to find the largest selection of vehicles, 14 acres to be exact, but you're also going to find one of the best sales staffs, the best customer service that you found anywhere when visiting a dealership. That's right. Trust me, there is a reason that Love Chevrolet has been your trusted hometown Chevy dealer since 1961. It's a really long time, and there's a reason they do it. So get out to Love Chevrolet today, and together, let's drive.
Things moving along fairly well this morning. Don't have any accidents to report at this time. And we'll welcome that for sure for your Wednesday morning. Mid to upper 80s for the next few days. 87 today, 88 tomorrow, 87 on Friday. A few storms could pop in on Saturday with a high of 84. Sunday, a little bit cooler. 78 is where we will top out. But right now, it's pretty nice. 61 on 107.5 The Game.
But we have got a very special guest in studio. We have got a huge announcement right now, and I am going to turn the mic over to the special guest. You can pull that to you, sir, and tell everybody who you are and what you want to announce this morning.
Good morning, everybody. It's Cam Scott here from Lexington, and I'm proud to announce that I am now a Carolina Gamecock, and we'll be joining the Gamecocks men's basketball team for the next year. I'm very excited. Thank you for having me. And, I'm just looking forward to making big things happen here in the SEC. So, yeah, Spurs up. Go Cox.
378 days ago was my math on that. April 17th, 2024, Cam Scott joined us here in studio to announce his commitment from the University of Texas to the University of South Carolina.
What a great voice Cam has.
Very smooth, very elegant.
Very, very nice voice. Smooth jazz voice. Quiet storm voice. His his voice was ready for the SEC.
Yeah.
I don't know if his basketball game was yet, but he had an SEC voice, man. He was ready. He has a beautiful voice. But yes, it's almost like Inception. Cam was in here committing to the Gamecocks. I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if you paid attention. I'm sure you did. But when he said that he was committing, how long did he say he was committing for?
When he said, I didn't listen then just now, so I forget, but I think he said a year.
He said a year.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to be joining the Gamecocks for a year. So he did his year of service. So we've watched commitments go from I'm committing to the university to I'm going to be playing for the next 3 to 4 years to the university.
I'll be around.
I'll be.
I'm here.
Check it off you next year. So yes, he did commit for a year. As in going back to the analogy of putting in $1 and getting change, a lot less fanfare on this commitment. There was a social media post, I believe.
Instagram, I believe is. Yep.
And it's pretty much done. I don't know what that means, but I think it means something.
Well, all right. There's a lot of different angles to take this from. Number one is the thought of going to the transfer portal. Did he look around and there was no other suitors? And I think you have to ask in this day and age, you have to ask, did he also go into the portal and be like, got a number, NIL number? And everybody went, nah, you're good. We good. We good on our end. I mean, that's a legitimate question of when you go into the portal or you go in portaling for NIL dollars and everybody's like, yeah, no, we're good. We're not shopping in that department anymore. But also, did he go into the portal and realize, not as much attention as I thought I would be getting? And then you call Lamont Paris back and like, hey, Coach.
Cam, what's going on, my brother? How you doing?
You rented out my locker space just if you remove the nameplate. Is the nameplate gone?
Yeah, I mean, this is a lesson in, there's a lesson in leverage, possibly, a lesson in not burning your bridges. Possibly there's a lot of things that you could probably glean from this on all sides of this equation. But the facts are that he did enter his name into the transfer portal, and now he's back. What happened in between that? Sure, somebody knows the story, but I don't know the story. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that both sides would say. But the fact is he did put his name in the portal with intentions to leave, and now he's back.
And then there's the other side of that. All right, now he's back. So what does this do for the roster? What does it actually do? Because, look, Cam, and again, April 17th, 2024, we were all there. He was here in studio. I think you had to leave that day, but he was here. Big fanfare, top 60 recruit. I don't remember exactly where he was in all the rankings, which rankings were which, but top 60 recruit. He got talked up a lot during the summer and the preseason. There was a lot of people, coaching staff. Lamont Paris went on Carolina Calls and said if he didn't make all SEC freshman team, the Lamont Paris should give his salary back. Yeah. Careful what you say on radio.
Watch that.
They will clip it and they will put it in intros. I am well aware of that. But the bottom line is obviously didn't, and no offense to the young man, and I'm not trying to dog him or put him down, but to say he didn't live up to expectation would be a wild understatement.
Yeah, I don't think you need to say that. I think if you would ask him, if he has any self-awareness,
I guarantee you he didn't live up to his expectations.
Right. So I don't think you need to apologize. I think that's a stone hard fact. He did not live up to his expectations, nor meet the expectations of what that team needed from him last year. Will there be changes made this year? Has he developed has his game developed? Do they see a different role for him this year? Maybe years of difference. All of that is very possible. But again, going back to the facts, last year was a disappointment.
Yeah, and so now the question is how much develop. So there, again, so many different angles for this. Do you put this on the coaching staff? Player development. We talked about yesterday. TJ Sanders was a 3-star guy that was developed, and Demetrius Knight, I don't know where the development came because when you have 3 schools and you're only here a year, Demetrius Knight was not thought of very highly. Nick Eamon-Warry wasn't this huge, massive recruit, but these guys were developed over time, or in Demetrius Knight's case, a year, and they go on to the NFL draft. Well, with Cam Scott, do you say, well, that's on him? Do you say it's on the coaching staff? Do you say, well, it's 50-50?
Can I throw a third
Go right ahead.
hat in the ring? Can we maybe put this on the rating system? The rating system of maybe saying, maybe this guy was not what we thought he was from the beginning. Maybe he was not a high 4-star guy, or maybe
Also fine.
Maybe that was not an evaluation piece, and maybe he was what he was. The coaches did their job to the best of their ability, and maybe he still has a long way to go. I think that is a possibility as far as what he is. It's clear that when he got out on the court in those games, he did not look like a 4-star basketball player. I think that's very clear for everybody's eyes. As the season went along, and this comes to the development piece, he never got better throughout the season. So that's where I would put the coaches on it. But my question was, going into the season, was he who they said he was even to start out with?
That's a great question, too. And so now it doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter because you and I have talked about it. It's a 1-to-1. It's a one-season type deal. Yeah, all right, you come back. What are you going to do this year? What are you going to look like this year? Where is the development this year? So there's a lot of things that now kind of play into that I think are extremely important. And we'll have to see kind of how this works out for him in terms of where you put him on this roster. It's going to be an entirely different roster for him. There's been talk about maybe trying to shift him into more of an on-the-ball guard as opposed to off-ball, where he can maybe handle the ball more. I think that's very interesting to try and figure out. So there's a lot going on with this, but I think also the big picture, and we're going to have Jamie Shaw on in roughly about 2 hours, what does it do for the team? Or because last year was what we saw, do you just be like, okay, this is just another transfer, basically a transfer in?
I think right now, based on the evaluation, if we were not in South Carolina, and let's say if we were South Carolina, and we had a guy coming in with this player's statistics and his game film from last year, how would we feel?
Yeah, you'd be like, what? Well, I'll tell you exactly how you feel.
You say, he was a 4-star.
I'll tell you exactly because I knew exactly what was going to be said when he left.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching staff didn't know how to get anything out of him. It's coaching staff's fault, not him. Look at him. Look at the potential.
So they can't do that. So
if he was coming from another school, you'd be like, nah, coaching staff. This kid, that school didn't know. It's what we're doing with Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, right? The former 5-star defensive tackle from Texas A&M. We're like, he was injured. They didn't know what they were doing with him. We do. We know how to get him. We know how to get him right.
You see the coaching staff. Who coached you last year? We don't do that. Oh yeah, we do that around here. 803-404-60. It's a very interesting story. I think it's going to be ongoing.
So what is again, what what exactly do we look for from him this year? What becomes the expectation for him? Do you put on him and say he is expected to step up this year and live up to the recruiting rankings?
I don't know, man. I saw what I saw on the court last year.
It's hard to, yeah.
It's hard to deny what I saw with my eyes. Yes, I heard reports. Yes, I know the legend of what was high school. I know what I saw on the court last year. And based on what I saw on the court last year, if this was a guy that I was not familiar with and you told me that we were getting a player with these stats and that game film, I'd be like, okay, cool.
We'll see what happens. We also learned again, the portal, though, just because you go into it doesn't mean there isn't a rope around your waist that they can't yank back.
He took a round trip in the portal.
But now I'm curious, did he keep his gear? Like his Gamecock gear? Did he say, I'm going someplace else, so
That's
here.
a good question. That's a good question.
That I can answer. Yes, he did.
Can I give away my gear?
Yeah, good point. Did he give it away?
That's what I mean, yeah.
Can I get my gear? Hey, cousin Bill, I need my Gamecock gear back.
803-404-6100. How you can weigh in if you want to do so this morning. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Not seeing any slowdowns you might be encountering this morning on your way to work or school. We are seeing that it's going to be feeling a little more summer-like, a little bit of humidity today, some clouds, 87 for the high, 88 tomorrow, 87 on Friday. Chance for some rain coming back in around Sunday. Just a couple chances of maybe a storm. I'm sorry, on Saturday. A few storms are possible on Saturday. But right now, starting out your morning at 62 on the early game.
.34 on your Wednesday morning. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, as we get you up and get you going. We've talked a little bit of Cam Scott as his return to South Carolina announced yesterday via social media. We will get back into that later on in the program. Jamie Shaw with On3 Sports will join us. We'll talk more about the the transfer portal class as a whole, get his take on it, because I got to be honest, Preston, some of these guys are like, huh? Who? What? Got nothing.
Yeah, and my argument, I think my thesis argument statement is, if we were not here in South Carolina, we might be feeling the same way about Cam Scott.
Very, very likely. You look at his numbers, and you're 100% right. Last night, South Carolina baseball, they get the job done. And I tell you what, Jen, let's play this real quick. This is, I apologize. Let's play clip number 1, just because I feel like this sums up right now what's kind of going. Last night, Paul Mainieri, they did just enough.
Well, I know I sound like a broken record, but, after a tough way to finish the weekend series, a chance to win the series on Sunday, and we didn't do it, but the guys came back, and, we did just enough to win today. I think our pitching was really good. Obviously, Jarvis gave us a quality start. Caleb came in and got a big out for us to end the inning. And then, even though they got to Crowther in the second inning, I thought he did a good job, up until, I had to take him out. And then I was just so proud of Ryder Guarino to come in and get 2 big outs for us. And he hadn't pitched in a while, but he really attacked the hitters and did a good job. And at the end of the day, Sweeney gave up a run, but you get the last out before they tie or take the lead. That's what, closers are supposed to do. So we'll take the win and move on to the Gators.
So that was last night, as he says. All right, we got it. We won 21-0 against quad 3 and 4 opponents.
Ring the bell, man. Streak is still alive.
But Preston, earlier this month, we were on it again.
Listen, man, I said earlier, you listen to the show. I really appreciate you all listen, spending your time with us. We say a lot of things wrong, but we also say a lot of things right. And here we were on April 14th, analyzing some of Coach Mainieri's comments. And we had some pointed analysis of some things. We said, Jen, can we get clip number 4 here? And this is going to be a little bit of inception, because this is a clip of us talking about Paul Mainieri. My big argument, and why, that's a great question, Gary. Why baseball is tougher, because when you get a new coach, you hope things change. You hope things change for the better. And things have changed, but they seem to have taken a turn for the worse. And for me personally, I was always on record on the show saying that I didn't think that Mark Kingston understood the gravity of playing in the SEC. And that's why I thought bringing in an SEC veteran or somebody who was seasoned in the SEC might get the program over the hump. My miscalculation was that maybe Paul Mainieri understood the SEC in the past, and maybe he doesn't understand the SEC now. And so my thought was that a new coach, this guy who's the SEC guy, understood the gravity. My miscalculation was that I think he knew what baseball was, and maybe he doesn't know what baseball is today.
He's had some comments this year that that I don't want to say it's just you kind of look around and you're like, oh, okay, all right. And one of them was that how much baseball had changed in 3 years in the SEC. And you kind of wonder, like, well, what do you mean how much has it changed in 3 years in the SEC? I mean,
those guys sound like they know what they're talking about.
we do some prep. We're prepared around
Those guys
here.
sound like they know what they're talking about. That was previous comments that we were pointing out that, hey, Coach Mainieri's saying some things that are interesting. And then I believe it was on the early game, not on early game, on Jay's show earlier this week. He basically came straight out and said, I underestimated the scope of this job. And that's sort of set off a firestorm of folks saying, how could he underestimate? And let me say this. I appreciate Paul Mainieri's candor. I appreciate him being candid and him being forthright and honest with what is, because he doesn't have to say that. So I do appreciate that. But it is interesting that he is stating that, because we've sort of been on to some of the comments that he's made.
Yeah, it's not the same, and it is the same with Lou Holtz taking over that first year. Did Lou Holtz, when he went 0-11, like nobody thought that, right? Nobody anticipated Lou Holtz going 0-11 in the first year. Then you got your team, your class coming in led by the Pied Piper recruit who's like, we're going to change everything. For like 6 days, we're going to change everything. Maybe not even that.
Yeah, there's a great story, and I wasn't there for it. It was in the 99 season where basically Lou Holtz said, and I have to edit for FCC regulations here, but he basically said, Brad Scott deserves a trophy this big for winning one game with your sorry behinds. And so there was maybe he did come in and look around and say, man, this is a lot worse than I thought it was. So that is one of the classic Lou Holtz, like
constantly walking by Mike McGee's office, just throwing poop bags in there.
Yeah, that is a classic Lou Holtz story. Brad Scott deserves a trophy, some trophy for just winning one game with you all. So hey, I don't know.
But you can say that. You can say now that you underestimate. It's fine. I'm okay with that. It's a one-time deal, though, right?
Yes.
And not only is it a one-time deal, it's okay. You get your pass. Fix it. You don't have year two to fix. Year two, it's fixed. Year two, you're in the postseason. Year two, you're prepared. Year two, you know what you're dealing with.
Well, now that you know.
Or that you're aware.
Now that you're aware, now that you know, now that you've seen the lay of the land, what are you going to do about it? Are you prepared to do the things that are needed to be done about it? And are you capable of doing that? And I think those are questions that need to be asked and answered before we move forward.
And the other part about that I would say is concerning, that's fine. Paul Mainieri, the head coach, was not aware. Monty Lee has been here. Did Monty Lee not give enough advice? Did Paul Mainieri ignore Monty Lee? Where is the disconnect in that? Because I've been around. Monty Lee's a smart guy. He has been around. Number one, he was at Clemson, obviously, but he's been around South Carolina. He's familiar with what's going on here.
Journeyman.
I'd have to look at this thing. 4? Well, 3 schools, 4 different stops. But he was here. Monty Lee was here. He should. I would assume that last year when Paul Mainieri is, Monty Lee's like, hey, here's how the league is. Or was it just an assumption of, oh, Paul Mainieri's been around, he knows what it's like?
I think that's a very good question, one that I had not considered. Those situations can go a lot of different ways.
I hate to say it like this, but like, it was Monty Lee like, hey, man, everybody throws in the 90s, and Paul Mainieri's like, I got this. I've won a championship, all right? You see the plaques on the wall? Got it.
Listen, man, things change very quickly. And you could maybe warn somebody that things have changed, and maybe they're like, yeah, I got it. And then when they get there, they're like, oh, why didn't you tell me? It's like, I told you.
Yeah, 803-404-6100. Is that happened? Oh, no, this is different.
You guys didn't tell me, Coach. We told you.
You got to get it fixed. I mean, look, there's nobody. I think, and I don't want to speak for any of y'all listening out there, but you've got to believe that Paul Mainieri will get it fixed, but people will give him 1 year. They'll say, all right, you get this year.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to believe that. You want to believe that. You hope that's true, but unless there is a recalculation or recalibration of what he understands about the league, then maybe it won't change. As I said, maybe this is the free pass. Because building on top of that, and I want to get into this maybe later in the week, he was also sold this job. And I'll go back to the gym conversation. Maybe his realtor maybe didn't give him all the facts.
He was like, let me check out the laundry room. They're like, no. You ain't gonna worry about washing clothes.
What's it called?
Sold as is.
Yeah, was it the disclosure agreement or whatever it is?
Absolutely.
Maybe he didn't give. Maybe Ray Tanner did not give him the whole truth about what was going on here. Maybe he was like, "No, that's cool."
He was like, look at this beautiful office overlooking look at the view. Look at the view.
I'm just saying, man.
Sold.
Bought it as is.
Don't move the couch because you might find some spots underneath it. You know.
Exactly. Don't lift up the rug.
Don't move that TV stand there. It's got a hole in the wall behind it.
I don't know. I think those are two very good questions.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll wrap up our number one. Preston will ask you Preston's questions. Our Preston's questions segment.
It just made me think.
We'll let Preston's questions take place. You're listening to the early game. 6:49 as we roll along on a Wednesday morning. Final segment for Preston Thorne before he is off to the hometown of the one and only Rod Wilson, Cross, South Carolina this morning. In particular, Cross Elementary or?
We're going to Cross High School today.
Oh, Cross High School.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Find us some players down there.
It's right around the corner. Don't worry about it.
Preston's Questions, our segment, our daily segment. What do you got for us today?
Well, Papa might have underestimated the job at hand. He walked in and he said, oh, maybe this is a little bit different than what I thought it was going to be. And it got me to thinking about a time in your life when maybe you might have underestimated the job at hand. It made me think of the summer where I spent a summer laying down sod. And somebody offered me and my friends a little bit of money to sod their yard for them. And we was like, cool, no problem. You mean we just take these pallets and put it on the ground? When I saw that first piece of pallet go on that yard, and then I looked around and saw how much yard was left.
That the mind started adding, doing
I
quick
started
math.
running the calculation. I was like, oh, this is going to be a lot harder. So first off, much respect to anybody out there that's laying down sod. You are true stalwarts of the community. But yeah, I was totally over my skis. I did not realize how hard from lifting the sod up. And here's the thing about it.
Was it rolls or was it?
It was pallets.
Sheets. Okay.
It was sheets.
So like I didn't know if there was pallets of rolled sod or just sheets.
We did both of them over the summer. Over the summer, I think the rolls were a little bit easier, but the square pallets, you have to lift them from up top and then you have to bend down. Mm-hmm. Okay, but here's how it's diabolical. At the end, now the pallets are low. So now you got to bend down twice you got to bend down to get the pallet, stand up, and then bend down again to put it into the ground. And just as you think you're getting further along, the job gets harder. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was convinced, okay, I need to go to school. I'm not going to do this.
Good job by the Thorne family to convince you schools.
That I needed. I mean, I did it for a summer. Made some solid money, but was not worth it. I'll say that. So, yeah. 803-404-6100. You ever get into a job and just decide, I might have underestimated this thing? Could be a home improvement job, could be a painting job, could be anything that you thought, oh, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought it was.
Multiple times. Got tricked.
That could also be a case.
I would redo the garage to fit both cars in there. And we had like an old, I don't know, just following my father's footsteps of times of being a hoarder. Mm-hmm. But we had like an old, I think, like washing machine that I just never like dragged off because I needed to get a trailer to take it. And so I would go to move it around in the garage and I'd have to move that thing. And so, but you'd have like the whole garage, like everything in the center. So now you can't pull any cars in there. And then it's like Tetris, trying to reorganize and put everything back. Yeah, that was about a once every 8-month thing for about 3 years. And you'd get halfway into it, you look at it and be like, what was I thinking originally?
That's the thing. You always have the motivation to start, and then you look around, you're like, oh, I have to finish this now.
Yeah.
And it's a long way away from where you started.
Yeah.
Moving tends to be in that same sort of category. You got
like, depending on what you're doing, the first 30 minutes, first hour, maybe, whatever, you into it, and you're like, all right, we're going to clean this up, it's going to look good. You're going to put the grass down, this is going to be a beautiful day. And about 45 to an hour in, you're like,
there's no turning back because now you have to finish it.
Uh-huh.
Just like if you go and walk, you say, hey, I'm going to walk 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You still have to turn around and come back. So
you don't account for the others coming back.
The other side of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like walking on the beach, honestly, because at some point you start to look around, you're like, hotels, or house, whatever, way back that way. Not sure what we're going to do here.
803-404-6100. Have you ever gotten into a job and then realized, oh, I might have underestimated how hard this was going to be?
What was going to happen?
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Papa Joe weighs in, and he says one that I thought, painting.
Yes.
I'm considering painting my bathroom, and it's not a big bathroom at all. Like I've looked at the project, and I'm like, I want to do this.
Yeah, because
But now I'm 40.
Blah, blah, blah.
I'm 42 now. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I want to do this, but I'm also now looking at it being like, I know what's going to happen. Yeah. I'm gonna Like
Well-
roll the little brush 3 times and be like, oh, this is an
Here's
awful
the
idea.
worst part about painting, because when you make this look good, then all of a sudden this looks bad now.
Yeah.
Because this is fresh and clean, and now you didn't realize how dingy this other side looked. Now I got to paint. This is fresh white. Now this is dingy white. Now I got to paint this side over here.
Yep. And especially if you're in a smaller space, you're having to cut in
my
more
God.
than you're having to do, you know, like it's
brother.
not just big walls. It's now you have all these cuts and twists and turns. So you got to cut in the paint, you know, at the top of the wall where it meets the ceiling. And yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Ray weighs in just with parenting.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Another texter weighs in with picking watermelons and pulling weeds from fields in Bamberg County is a summer job. Horrible from sun up to whenever. 1,000 degrees in June and July.
Detasseling corn. I'm same.
Solid pick.
Another text weighs in the job I underestimated most was being married to my ex-wife. Promoted myself to bachelor. Been there, buddy. Been there. Chris weighs in with roofing gopher one summer, taking shingles
man.
back and forth.
Ooh. You don't, you're like, it's not that bad. Oh, there are a million shingles on this roof. My fault. I didn't realize that.
803-404-6200. Continue to send those in. Preston,
Appreciate y'all. See y'all tomorrow.
he'll be back tomorrow. Coming up next hour, David Waters, GatorBait.com, joins us. Let's talk some SEC football rankings and get all fired up that our coach is 8th. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder. And let me tell you, I've mentioned a couple times, this is right about the time 5 years ago Jacob stepped in and helped me purchase my home on Lake Murray. And let me tell you, he will do the exact same thing for you. There's nobody better in the business. That is exactly why he is called the Mortgage Guru. So if you are looking to buy a new home, if you're looking to refinance, Jacob and First Palmetto Bank are ready to help you. Trust me, right now, First Palmetto Bank is got plenty of different options, and they're owned and operated right here in the Midlands, which means Jacob Crowder, the Mortgage Guru, has local decision makers, meaning quick and precise underwriting. So again, if you're looking to purchase a home, if you're looking to refinance your home right now, the first phone call you need to make is to Jacob Crowder to see what the interest rates are, down payment is, and the monthly mortgage payments. Call the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, today, 803-719-1005.
No accidents reported at this time, just some road construction out there that you've been encountering. And if you see anything out there that we should be passing along, please let us know. 803-404-6100. And your forecast, 87 for the high today, 88 tomorrow, 87 on Friday. Next opportunity for some rain or storms coming in on Saturday. 62 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Seven a.m. as we get you up and get you going this morning, a Wednesday morning, the final day of April. We have motored through the first 4 months of 2025, and we've got plenty more to get into and discuss as we will get you set kind of transitioning into May. Playoff season, unfortunately, maybe not discussing quite as much baseball. Hopefully, South Carolina will see their series coming up this weekend against Florida. We'll have it for you right here on 107.5 The Game, 6:45 Friday night pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. But we did talk a little Pulmonary and a little South Carolina baseball as they win last night over Charleston Southern. Makes them 21-0 against Quad 3 and Quad 4 teams. And that's another discussion there, just kind of in terms of, all right, they've beaten the bad teams. They've taken care of business against the bad teams. It's the good teams. It's the top 25 teams. So I don't think you can just say, well, this is a bad baseball team. This is an awful bad. That's not the case, I think. But you can also definitely not say, well, they're a good baseball team. They're perfectly average. They beat the teams they're supposed to. They lose to the teams that they're not better than. They don't squeak out a win here or there quite like it's been in the past where you change your conference record. South Carolina right now has to go at absolute bare minimum 8-1 over the final 9 conference games. They do have another non-conference game against Winthrop coming up later on in about 2 weeks. They'll take next week off for exams. A softball last night rallies. They were down 2-0 early, and I say rallies, but they won 10-2. So they run Rule Furman in 6 innings over at Beckham Field, and Ashley Chastain Woodard in her first season will get set now for the final series of the regular season Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that will come against Alabama over at Beckham Field. Ashley Chastain Woodard, what an incredible first season for them as she has really revitalized that program, rejuvenated it. They're 37-13, 11-10 in conference. They're 29-4 at home. Really, really fun to watch them play, and we'll look forward to seeing them in postseason play coming up here in the next few weeks. So last night, you had the Carolina Hurricanes win in overtime. 5-4. They won. Yeah, the Atlanta Braves win last night. They won 8-2. They're, by the way, heating up. You had South Carolina baseball win last night. You had South Carolina softball win last night. I would say, all in all, it was a really, really good night. And if you got an NBA team, hopefully your NBA team won as well.
Cubs won.
Do what? Cubs won?
Cubs won.
Cubs winning. Cubs, I haven't looked. They were in first.
They were first.
Are they still in first? They were in first place, and they're kind of they're kind of pulling away a little bit. Okay, they're a game and a half up on the Reds, who will be in Atlanta next week for a series. So the Cubs in first place. Braves now have jumped up. They're just 2.5 back of the Phillies, 6.5 back of the Mets. So we'll do more Chop Talk tomorrow. Also, yesterday, we get word Cam Scott, he's out of the portal. Where's he going? He's not going anywhere. He's coming right back home, staying here at the University of South Carolina. We'll talk more about that coming up in hour number 3 when Jamie Shaw of On 3 Sports joins us then. So anything you hear, if you want to join us, 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. Coming up this hour, we're going to talk some SEC football coaches rankings. Blake Topmeyer with USA Today had a ranking, and we're going to get more into that. David Waters set to join us at 7:30 this morning. Let's get out to the phone line, talk a little baseball. Mike wants to weigh in on Paul Mainieri. Mike, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
I'm all right. Well, y'all, I've been listening to the conversation. You know, I know Paul Mainieri is in year 1, and as much as I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, you know, and let him, you know, give him more years, you know, he just doesn't seem to understand the game this year, y'all. He does, you know, the way he manages the pitchers. I mean, you know, just the way he manages the game, y'all, just leaves me scratching my head. I mean, y'all, our pitchers have, by and large, regressed this year. I mean, Tyler Pitzer, you know, looked like great at the beginning of the year, hasn't done well lately. Marlatt, not much lately. Brendan Sweeney, even last night, I mean, he got hit pretty hard against the Charleston Southern team, which shouldn't be happening for our closer. I mean, our hitting, you know, I don't know if it's regressed, but it hasn't improved. You know, just there's so much that I just don't, you know, understand what he does, and I don't feel like this game has passed him by, you know, and I just feel like, you know, maybe we need to go after Chris Lemonis or something right now while he's there. You know, he's a guy that, you know, Mississippi State let go, and, you know, he's shown success. He's probably, you know, got many more years left than the Mainieri does, and just, you know, so that's all I have to say. Just thank you, and I'll listen off the air.
Yeah, appreciate the phone call, Mike. Yeah, I think, you know, I just, what Mississippi State did, people say Chris Lemonis, and I'll be honest, I've seen, if you're not familiar with Chris Lemonis, the now former Mississippi State coach who was fired early this week, mid-season, by Mississippi State over there, you look at his body of work, and see, this is where I think you've got to be a little more careful than just saying, well, let's go get this guy. You look at his body of work, it's not good. 3 of the last 4 years, they've been bad. Now, they won a national championship in 2021, but in 2022, he went 26-30. In 2023, he went 27-26. Last year, they bounced back and got to a regional 40-23, and this year they're 25-19, 7 or they're under him. They were 25-19, 7-14 in conference. He hasn't won double-digit conference games 3 out of the last 4 years. Paul Mainieri and Jeremiah Donati do, in my opinion, need to sit down at the end of this year and have a very honest discussion about how much fire Paul Mainieri has left, about what he's got to invest in this program, because, and I'm not picking on Paul Mainieri, and I'm not trying to say he should be let go or fired, but I do think one of the things that stands out to me when we hear these quotes from Paul Mainieri, well, I kind of underestimated the strength of the league. I think age is a number. Jen, you can weigh in on this. I think age is a number, and Paul Mainieri's 66, I believe, might be 67 by now. So I'm not going to say, well, it's a young man's game in that perspective, but it is a man with energies game. Mm-hmm. You got to have college.
Have we seen, has he shown energy or lack thereof?
I don't think he has, but where I go with that is in the offseason. I mean, look at Shane Beamer. Like, Shane Beamer has energy for days. Yesterday he's playing golf. He was in the Peach Bowl Golf Classic over there, playing with Houston Nutt. Steve Spurrier, by the way, finished 3rd. Shane Beamer finished 3rd. But, I mean, you look at Shane's everywhere.
Yeah.
Dawn Staley's everywhere. And I don't really necessarily mean during the season, because you know what they're supposed to be doing locked in the season. It's the offseason when you have to improve your team. And Shane Beamer yesterday's picking up defensive line commitments from Georgia Southern transfer and Troy Pikes. He's playing golf. He's doing speaking engagements. Over a week ago, I was down in Florence, and he was doing a speaking engagement down there. He's doing on the Gamecock Club Tour. You look across the board, and if you're going to be an older coach, you better have a lot of energy in you. And where I'm going with this is this baseball program right now, it needs a high energy guy because you've got to get into the transfer portal. You've got to convince kids to come play for you, whether it's for 4 years or for 1 year. That's what I mean.
Especially knowing that he has even said he's probably a 3-year guy.
Yeah. And that's where I go with that. And that's where I'm saying Jeremiah Donati and Paul Maneri have to sit down and say, okay, Coach, vacation days are pretty much non-existent right now. Every day, no offense, but you're not going off to Hilton Head or Myrtle Beach or Charleston or wherever, Isle of Palm, wherever, and it is a full-on 24-hour a day, 7-day a week job right now. And I'll say this again: we watch Shane Beamer; he embodies that. He is fully invested in that program. Now he has fun. We've seen him on social media. But that's what I'm saying. He is constant on the go. And this baseball program, and if Paul Maneri can do it, go get him. Don't fire him. He's a smart guy. He knows way more about baseball than I'll ever know, has the knowledge of it and everything. But I think that's, to me, what this baseball program is going to have. You got to have a person who is go, 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 understanding that right now this is completely unacceptable.
Yeah, it's definitely not the season we were looking for and hoping for. And again, you just kind of wonder what was he sold a bill of goods? Like, what exactly was it? And maybe he had hopes like, hey, I see what this team has, but I see their potential, and he's just not been able to get out of it, pull out of them what they need.
And he's talked about it also. He said some of the interview, he said losing is worn on him. Mm-hmm. It's worn on him, and it does. He's a successful head coach, and I'm sure. Look, nobody likes to lose. Nobody. When you get to that level, nobody likes to lose, and I'm sure it has indeed worn on him a little bit. But
I like him overall, so I'm hopeful.
We've talked to him. We're fans. I'm a fan of him. I'm pulling for him to succeed. I understand what the plan was here, but again, you gotta. There's gonna have to be a level of buy-in from the head coach that. That's going to be the big question for me. And when you say Chris Lemonis, again, I understand, but let's look at the numbers here. He did win a national championship, but 3 of the last 4 years have not lived up to Mississippi State standards, and that's why he was fired from there. And that's why Mark Kingston was fired from here. South Carolina did the same thing. Mark Kingston did not live up to South Carolina standards. Chad Holbrook did not live up to the standards that Ray Tanner set. 803-404-6100. Speaking of living up to standards, Blake Topmeyer with USA Today has an article out on ranking SEC football coaches. We'll talk about that. David Waters will join us coming up in about 20 minutes because I brought on David, the one is really invested in the SEC. He knows the SEC, but he's also a Florida guy. He covers the Gators. And he was not happy yesterday that their coach, that Billy Napier, was ranked where Billy Napier is. I'll give you the rankings and we'll discuss it when we come back. You're listening to the early game.
Seems to be a pretty good morning as far as the commute is concerned. No accidents to report currently, not really seeing any significant slowdowns either. 87, that's going to be our high today. 88 tomorrow, 87 on Friday. A couple storms could be popping up on Saturday, but then we cool down a little bit for Sunday, and it clears out 78 for the high. But it's a little bit overcast right now, and 63 on 107.5 The Game.
$7:18 on a Wednesday morning, April the 30th. Hope you're up and doing well this morning. Get the kids to school. Just a few weeks of school left. Speaking of, in just a few weeks, I want to remind you, I know you've watched football at Williams-Brice Stadium, but now is your chance to play golf inside of Williams-Brice Stadium. Upper Deck Golf is coming to Columbia May 9th and 10th, and you have a chance to win a VIP 4-pack of tickets to go and play. All you need to do is go to 1075 The Game's Facebook page and upload a picture of you at a game inside Williams-Brice Stadium. So go to our Facebook page, go to the 1075 The Game Facebook page, upload a picture of you at a game inside Williams-Brice Stadium, and we will notify the winners a week from yesterday, next Tuesday, May the 6th. You can go and play some golf. You'll get a VIP 4-pack. All you need to do is go to 1075 The Game's Facebook page and upload a picture of you for Upper Deck Golf. Again, May 9th and 10th next week, and you can go and participate. 803-404-6100 if you want to text in this morning. A couple of y'all real quick weighing in said texter weighed in. Let's get real, guys. This is always how this year was going to go. There's a reason everyone picked us to finish at the bottom of the league. I want more wins and passion too, but this was never going to be our year. Maybe. I know that they were picked low, but you even had Kendall Rogers. I think it was Kendall Rogers. One of the guys from D1 Baseball who actually came out and basically said that they thought that South Carolina was wildly underrated and this could be a pretty good team. Nobody really seemed to know what this team was, and now we kind of do it. Again, they've taken care of business against the bad teams, just hadn't been able to win against the good teams. And by the way, for the record, because a couple of people weighed in, I want to make it clear, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that Paul Mainieri should be fired. I definitely don't think he should be fired. I think he has to make the decision whether he is all in, whether he is completely committed, whether this job is for him, and whether he's ready to exert the energy. I don't think it's not a fire him situation. This is a conversation for him to look at himself in the mirror, to talk with his family, and make a decision on just how invested he is in this. Because it's a lot. It's an absolute lot. There's no question about it. Coaching today, the guys that I talk to, the women that I talk to that are in coaching, man, it's not like it used to be. You're not just coaching ball. You're managing NIL, you're managing rosters, you're managing attitudes and egos, and on top of all that, you're coaching. And obviously baseball's roster a little bit bigger. So, again, something that he has to sit down. But he's too good of a coach. You don't fire him. The firing is not an option. That's not the option. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. I appreciate the text messages. Blake Topmeyer with USA Today put out a ranking yesterday. SEC football coaches rankings 1 through 16. Now, we're going to have David Waters on in about 10 minutes, and I'm really interested to hear what he has to say because I'm trying to look at this and be like, all right, let me see here what I can maybe get all fired up about and discuss. Billy Napier, number one, is 15 on this list. He is only ahead of Jeff Lebby. And so, again, we're going to talk with David Waters, who used to do SEC breakdown. So he covered all of the SEC, but he also does GatorBait.com, which, again, covers Florida. So I'm really interested to hear him. Let's go from the bottom up. and give you the 16th ranked coach. No real surprise here, Jeff Lebby. Jeff Lebby inheriting, as Blake Topmeyer says, inherited a tough situation as the third coach in 3 years at a school where winning seasons don't come easily. He failed to improve the situation in his first season. The more time passes, the more we'll deepen our respect for what Dan Mullen and Mike Leach achieved at Mississippi State. If this doesn't work for Lebby, he can return to being a good offensive coordinator. If this doesn't work out for MSU, cue the roundup of flush and repeat. So he's 16. Probably no surprise there. I am surprised that Billy Napier's 15th. Now, we make fun of Billy Napier. I make fun of Florida on this program, do it a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But I really don't know if I would have Billy Napier 15th behind people like Sam Pittman at Arkansas, Clark Lee, who is 13th. By the way, Sam Pittman 14th on this ranking. Clark Lee is 13th on this list. Hugh Freeze, this isn't working out really in Auburn, and then now he's got some health issues and just kind of, we'll see how far that goes. But Hugh Freeze is at 12. At 11, you got Brent Venables. Again, maybe I'm being hard. Maybe I'm being too soft on Billy Napier, but I'm a little surprised. And 803-404-6100 if you want to text in. Would you have Billy Napier as the 15th best coach in the SEC? Here's what Blake Topmeyer had to say. He said, Florida opted for another lap with Napier rather than hitting the reset button. The emergence of quarterback DJ Lagway and Lagway's steadfast support for Napier helped the coach save his job, and Florida finished the season playing better than it ever had previous in his tenure. Florida was remarkably quiet in the transfer portal, and it still seems as if Napier and the Gators are playing with an old deck of cards. Napier will go as far as Lagway takes them. But again, Blake Topmeyer, USA Today again, has him 15th. Personally, I'd have him probably ahead of Sam Pittman. I'd probably have him ahead of Clark Lee. I'd probably actually have him ahead of Hugh Freeze, but that's where they've got him. Brent Venables is at number 11. Not sure exactly what I think about that. I think he's probably on the hot seat. I think he's probably got to have a really good season, and he's going to rest his hopes on John Mateer, the Washington State transfer quarterback who's coming in for that offense to improve. Number 10 on the list, Mark Stoops. It says Kirk Ferentz couldn't retire fast enough for Stoops, and an Iowa alumnus. Once the toast of the SEC, Stoops' cachet erodes bit by bit. He delivered some commendable seasons, but he's become stale, and staleness is the enemy of the NIL era. He's in a tough spot coaching at a basketball-first school in a football-driven conference where every dollar counts. Stoops should be regarded as Kentucky's best coach since Bear Bryant. His legacy will shine more than his ending. And that's an interesting point on Stoops because Shane Beamer's kind of turned the tables on Kentucky and Stoops. Remember, we were all worried about South Carolina trying to beat Kentucky and that losing streak, and now you've got a 3-game win streak in Shane Beamer's tenure against Kentucky. Last year was a thumping, and quite frankly, you look at what Kentucky has done, and it feels like South Carolina has substantially moved past Kentucky. And we weren't necessarily having this discussion back in September. We were wondering, okay, can South Carolina go up to Lexington, Kentucky? That game was going to be on ABC. Was South Carolina going to be able to surpass them? And South Carolina did it quite handily, and did it, by the way, with what I would say was about a 20% Lenore Sellers. That was not the same Lenore Sellers in Game 2 that we saw in Game 12. So interesting to see where Mark Stoops, having him at 10 seems interesting. Mike Elko checks in at number 9 at Texas A&M, and at number 8 is Shane Beamer. And I thought about this a lot yesterday getting ready for this particular segment, and what I think is this is probably right. Now, there's a coach or two that I can argue, like Eli Drinkwitz, who's at number 7. But here's what Blake Topmeyer has to say about Shane Beamer. He says, Beamer beat Clemson twice in the past 3 years. That counts for a lot. He hypes his guys up for big games, and South Carolina attained more consistency last season than it previously showed with Beamer. He's a solid recruiter and effectively picks spots to land a punch in the portal. South Carolina experienced some low floors, call them basements, under past coaches Brad Scott, Lou Holtz, and Will Muschamp. Beamer has raised the floor and brought South Carolina to the playoffs doorstep. So it has him as coach. Blake Topmeyer, again, USA Today, where you can check this out, ranking the top 16 or ranking the SEC coaches. So he's got Shane Beamer at number 8. He puts Eli Drinkwitz. If you've listened to this program on a regular basis, you know how we feel about Eli Drinkwitz. He puts Eli Drinkwitz at 7. Here's what he says about Drinkwitz. How rare are Missouri's consecutive double-digit win seasons? Well, Gary Pinkel is the only coach other than Drinkwitz to pull it off. Drinkwitz can toggle between coach and lobbyist, a useful skill set in this area. Missouri's NIL laws assist Drinkwitz in-state recruiting. More importantly, he's made Missouri a player in the transfer sweepstakes. When Drinkwitz's tenure faced an inflection point, he gave up playing calling and hired an offensive coordinator. He deserves credit for enacting needed change instead of digging in his heels. Me personally, reading the Beamer thing, and then being slightly biased, just slightly, I'd have Shane ahead of Eli Drinkwitz. But I can see that. I do actually like Eli Drinkwitz. If he was South Carolina's coach, I'd probably be on board. I kind of like what he does and personality. Rounding out that, Josh Heupel is at number 6 on the list. Lane Kiffin is number 5, and this is where I'm going to bring this back up with Preston later. Do we overvalue Lane Kiffin? Think about that for a second. Like Lane Kiffin, I'm starting to feel like we may actually overvalue him. Number 4 is a coach that I love. If you've listened, you know I'm a huge Kalen DeBoer fan. Last year was not good for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer, but I'm actually a huge Kalen DeBoer fan. I called him maybe the best coach in the country, even when Nick Saban was coaching, because he was doing it at Washington and not at Alabama. Now he comes to Alabama and they lose to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, so is he really as good of a coach? Or?
That's a good question. He is the coach probably of all the coaches that I've got my eye on this year, because I really thought he was
better than that.
Better than what he showed last year. And let's be clear, he had a good team.
Yeah.
He had a good team. They weren't working with leftovers in Tuscaloosa.
No, they were still pretty well stacked at that point. So, yeah, it makes you wonder what his abilities are. But he has a really pretty office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and he really upgraded it from the mahogany and everything of what Nick Saban had.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun distinction between the two of them. The smoking lounge look, the hunter's cabin feel to look like an Apple showroom.
Number 3 on the list, Brian Kelly. Number 2 on the list, Steve Sarkisian. And number 1 on the list, Kirby Smart. Let's catch up with David Waters of Gator Bait and SEC Breakdown. Get his take on this. Billy Napier's 15th. I'm interested to talk to him. We'll catch up with him when we come back. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years they have been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's that proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide the proper advice, service, and the results that you need for your facility. But most importantly, you're going to do it in a manner that's both safe and pleasing to you and your operation. So give them a phone call today. They are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready to help you with a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You can visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. The great thing about them, they're there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 7:30 a.m. You're walking around the house, you look up, you discover a leak. Guess what? Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. So give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
We have a few typical slowdowns in areas where it's expected, but as far as accidents are concerned, none of those are reported right now. So that's great for your morning drive. And as far as your forecast goes, looking forward to that because 87 is what we will hit for today. 88 tomorrow, 87 on Friday, and maybe a couple of thunderstorms on Saturday, but not projecting any kind of a washout. So pretty nice weather overall, starting to get us into the feel of summer a little bit. Right now, 63 on 107.5 The Game.
$7:35 on a Wednesday morning as we are really heading into talking season, list season, and USA Today's Blake Topmeyer has put out a list ranking the 16 SEC head coaches. And joining me now, good buddy, good friend, David Waters, kind of a family, almost a family member. We have a mutual basically a former college roommate of mine. So it's kind of like, David, we're basically related in today's world.
Yeah, there you go, for sure. And, it stinks we don't get to talk as much anymore since Florida and South Carolina don't play in football. SEC's got to fix that.
Yeah, I'm guessing that we'll see that change in 2026. 2026. Yeah. We'll see Florida rotate back on the schedule. And the question I have for you, will Billy Napier, what do you think? Will Billy Napier still be the coach of Florida when the next time we get to see the Gators?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. You mentioned that list there, and we can get into that. But if we want to, talk Florida and kind of expectations, that would look if Florida and South Carolina play in 2026, that means Billy Napier would need to have a pretty successful 2025 here coming up. And and we saw it once the season ended, the previous season ended. You way too early rankings started coming out, and you saw Florida, being ranked there in these way too early lists with that big November stretch they had with wins over LSU and Ole Miss and beating rival Florida State, getting a bowl win, ended the season with 4 straight wins there. And then, of course, DJ Lagway coming back at quarterback. And then you have Florida returning 4 or 5 offensive linemen. You have Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp returning up front on defense. So there's a lot to like about this team. And I think when you start looking at it is, the roster is where it is. The roster is in a good spot there for Billy Napier, probably the best the roster has looked since he's been in Gainesville. So now the expectation is kind of on him, to lead it. And there's been a lot of consternation of hiring an offensive coordinator, or is he not going to hire an offensive coordinator, and game planning issues and game management issues. But the roster is where it is right now, and it's in a good spot. So now the microscope's even more so on Billy Napier to see if he can kind of continue that upward trend for the program. And if he does, and Florida, South Carolina play each other in 2026, I think he'd be on the sideline.
Florida, they've got a stretch. They're going to open with Long Island University. I feel like this is straight out of the Steve Spurrier school of find somebody we know we're going to trounce by about 100. I didn't know Long Island University even played football. I didn't know there was a Long Island University. They do play South Florida after that. Your thoughts on this stretch here? 5 weeks, 4 games at LSU, at Miami. Texas comes to the Swamp, and at Texas A&M is a monstrous murderer's row, 4 out of 5 straight weeks. How does that have to go for Florida?
Well, the playoff gives you a little bit of wiggle room, and Florida's schedule's tough, as you just mentioned, so they might have more wiggle room when it comes down to the end of the season. But certainly, you look at that schedule, and it's tough once again. And that stretch right there is probably the season-defining stretch. Last year it was in November, and Florida came out with it successful. Well, this year it's earlier in the season, and you got to kind of get some revenge on Miami there when they came into the Swamp, and it really put it on you. But before that, you have a road game against LSU. So it's back-to-back road games. You can say, Florida wins that game at LSU, well then, you want to go back the very next week and kind of continue the momentum, can kind of continue the swing. You don't want to, take a step back after it would be a big road win to go into Baton Rouge and go beat LSU for another team people are thinking highly of, with Garrett Nussmeier returning at quarterback. And then Florida, we'll after those two games, we'll have a bye week and then return home, and Texas comes to the Swamp, and that'll be a big game. And then Texas will be a national championship contender. Arch Manning comes rolling in, and they really put it on Florida last year. Florida goes to Austin the week after they played Georgia, and it wasn't even a game. Texas just really controlled it, and then Florida went on their streak. But and then Texas A&M was another team that came through the Swamp last year and really put it on Florida. So that stretch there you mentioned. There's three opponents in that stretch. Three opponents in that 4-game stretch that Florida lost to last year, and neither one of those games were close. So Florida, with DJ Lagway returning at quarterback, there's a lot of expectations for Florida. In the games that he started and finished, Florida was undefeated, and I think that's the way a lot of the fans are looking at it with DJ Lagway, and the expectation for this year and kind of continuing what they built on last year. But that early season stretch, Florida last year didn't start off very well and still found a way to rally themselves. Could you do that for a second year? If you falter in that 4-game stretch, could you really find another way, another season in a row where you'd have to rally the troops and have a big finish? So, but I think to kind of keep the confidence going and a lot of expectations for this team, they're going to have a pretty successful, stretch in that in those 4 games.
Yesterday on Twitter, you put out the shocking part. This is in reference to the USA Today rankings. You said the shocking part comes from Billy Napier being all the way down at 15 and pairing him with what some perceive a team that is trending up for 2025. Yeah, explain that. Yeah, I'm surprised. I would have Napier at 15. I don't think I'd have him in the top 10, but I was surprised he was behind Sam Pittman and Clark Lee in particular on this list. So your thoughts on Billy Napier? We're going to circle back to the SEC as a whole, but your thoughts on Billy Napier being at 15 on this list?
Yeah, and that's where it comes from. And like you said, now, I mean, if people want to go head-to-head, he did lose to Clark Lee and Vanderbilt all the way back in year 1. He lost to Sam Pittman in his second season. So maybe, this rider is really putting in head-to-head a whole lot. But
well, I'll just say, I hate to say this, being me, he does have 2 wins against Shane Beamer. So.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if head-to-head really is that much of a factor in these rankings. But like you said, I just with the trend of Florida and how they ended last season, I do have a hard time swallowing him being all the way down at 15. But I think when you look at that list and look at starts number 8 with Shane Beamer, then 9 Mike Elko, 10 Mark Stoops, 11 Brett Venables, 12 Hughes Freeze, Clark Lee at 13, Sam Pittman 14, Billy Napier at 15, and then Jeff Lebby, Mississippi State 16. You could probably, besides Lebby, you could probably throw 8 through 15 in the blender, and you probably get some pretty good results, no matter how it shakes out. So don't get me wrong. I mean, I heard plenty from Gator Nation of saying, no, it shouldn't be all that shocking because of some of those negatives about Billy Napier I mentioned earlier, with the game management and play calling being something that they think holds this team back, that they think the roster's in a good spot, but Billy Napier is the one that holds this team back. I get that angle of it, but when you start comparing him to Sam Pittman, Clark Lee, and now even Hugh Freeze at Auburn, if we're just going to erase Ole Miss from his equation, you just look at what he's done at Auburn so far, he should probably be lower on the list. Now, I think because of what he has proven in the past, you can sit here and maybe say the ceiling's a little bit higher, but for now, I'd probably have him below Billy Napier from what I've seen at Florida and Auburn in recent years. So, I think a lot of people are circling, this 2025 season for Billy Napier is maybe the ultimate decision maker of where he probably should be in lists like this, because the roster is in a good spot, and now it's just going to circle on coaching. And can he coach his way out of the late second half blunder or a fourth quarter blunder or a goal line blunder that we've seen over and over again, penalties that just keep mounting up for this team. So I think a lot of people are just really nailing home the fact that they don't necessarily really believe in Billy Napier, no matter what the thoughts of or a Florida team that's trending up for the 2025 season.
I tell you what, you have about 10 minutes to give us for a more of an SEC look at this ranking, or have I caught you on a bad time with I know you got stuff going on?
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Let's hold you for another. I want to come back, get into a few more. I want to get into Lane Kiffin and Kalen DeBoer specifically, and also Brian Kelly, the 3, 4, 5s of this, and get your thoughts on that. So we're going to hit a break. We'll come back. David Waters with GatorBait.com will continue on with us. We'll talk big picture SEC, not just Gators, not just Gamecocks. We'll talk big picture with him. He knows how to talk about it. He covers it, and we'll discuss that with him when we come back. You're listening to the Early Game. few minutes left in the hour and staying on the phone with good buddy David Waters, GatorsBreakdown.com. Make sure you go and check that out. It's going to be a big year for Billy Napier and the Gators, and we'll definitely have David back on later in the year to talk more specifically Florida when we get into our previews around SEC Media Days. But let's talk big picture SEC, and what we're discussing this morning is the USA Today article from Blake Topmeyer with David, and he's got his 16 coach ranking for the SEC. And David, I'm kind of looking at this little 3, 4, 5 group, and I'm trying to decide if Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin are overrated in this group. Let's start with Lane Kiffin. He's done good things. There's no doubt about it. But has he achieved what maybe what we give him credit for at Mississippi?
Ooh, that's interesting because I'd probably have him higher on the list.
Ooh.
And I think it's just because of – you bring up a good point. I guess the other way I would look at it would be the best in Ole Miss history, in this stretch of what he's doing there that nobody else has done at Ole Miss. Now, where you can take away from him, and probably to your point there, is did really underachieve last year, and that really ended last year in November with losing in the swamp, the next to the last game of the season to Florida, and pretty much ruining their college football playoff chances. But still, even with that, still better than history has shown at Ole Miss. I'd probably have him at 4 above Kalen DeBoer if we're going just what's happened in the SEC, and you're probably penalizing Kalen DeBoer a little bit more maybe than I should with his first season at Alabama, but just kind of been impressed with what Lane Kiffin's done at Ole Miss, even though maybe not living up to the national expectation of reaching the playoff last year. Brian Kelly at number 3. No, I really don't have an issue with him at number 3. Still I think underachieved last year at LSU, but still reaching the SEC championship game. His first year there, Jalen Daniels, what he was doing with quarterback there with him. Because I think Brian Kelly's the better coach than your next group of guys, when you start with Josh Heupel, Eli Drinkowitz, Shane Beamer, those like. So I think, big picture, I'd still have Brian Kelly. Kalen DeBoer is a guy, I think, coming into this year that probably can really shoot up if he has what everybody wants to go to in a second year of a head coach at a program. Everything's kind of moving in his vision now there. Ryan Grubb comes back there to help him with the offense there at Alabama. He's a guy who I think when we look at the end of this season, that he could move his way back up to 3 in front of Brian Kelly and firmly in front of Lane Kiffin. And this year's going to be a big year for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. And then going back to him for a second, everything that they lost with guys who they entered to the transfer portal, I think they were they were definitely. I think they had 8 guys drafted off that Ole Miss team. A lot of those guys did come through the transfer portal, so this is a whole new look Ole Miss team. If he keeps up what we've seen the last couple of years with a whole brand new look team, then I think he's somebody who will still firmly stay in that top 5. And would you penalize him for a team that has to build through the portal? They don't recruit high school very, very well. But Lane Kiffin, I think, is very interesting as well. So I think there's still some movement. You're firmly confident in 1 and 2. Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian. It takes disaster of a year for Steve Sarkisian to move off of the number 2 list. I think Kirby, he'll do enough to stay at number 1. But you're right. We have 3, 4, 5 spot. I think there's a lot of movement that can happen between Brian Kelly, Kalen DeBoer, and Lane Kiffin.
Let's get an outsider's perspective. What you see from your vantage point, looking at the SEC on South Carolina and Shane Beamer, and how you and maybe how Florida perceives this program, because you had the 5-7 season. Florida came up here and got one on South Carolina. It was actually one of the better games South Carolina played. Defense fell apart late. But then South Carolina goes 9-4 last season. And so now you have Shane Beamer at number 8, which I think is fair. I think that's very, very fair. But your thoughts on South Carolina right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're getting a big win over Clemson last year, I think speaks to a lot. And then, I mean, it's kind of like Florida in a way where you're really eyeing in on the quarterback and how far can the quarterback take you. I think that's the great equalizer when you play the teams that have the better rosters than you. You know, what can your quarterback do? Lenore Sellers can play very well. He can go win big games for you where maybe everybody else on the roster isn't playing so well or he has to make up for it. There's a guy there that can do that. So I think there's confidence in what he can do. Now, can he get some help at receiver and watching the NFL draft, you know, this past weekend, and all the defenders for South Carolina that got drafted, I'm like, you know, why wasn't that defense any better? I wonder if you guys are thinking the same thing, but there's a lot of draft picks there, and, you know, for South Carolina defense, I think that was, you know, just inconsistent. I think that they showed some good, they showed some bad, but looking at the talent that they had, maybe they should have been better. So, I mean, I think a solid recruiter, Shane Beamer can get his guys ready to play. I think it's really just about the consistency and then finding a way. Now, we all know what happened against LSU last year, and you probably got screwed out of that game. But, you know, finding a way to win that game, finding a way to win that Alabama game, and maybe another year with Lenore Sellers at quarterback is what really is that next step to break through to win games like that. Because no question about it that Shane Beamer gets his guys ready to play those type of games. It's now getting those guys ready to win those type of games. And I think that's the next step there for Shane Beamer. So I think a lot like Florida, if you get the quarterback play you want, then you certainly should be fighting for a college football playoff spot.
David, we appreciate it. I always enjoy talking to you. Look forward to catching up later on the summer, man. Have a great rest of the week.
All right, see y'all guys later.
Take care. Hour 3 on the way. Appreciate David Waters there. GatorsBreakdown.com. Hour 3 up next.
You know, they do say perfection is a journey. Well, that journey led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin. We renovated a couple bathrooms in our house, needed a countertop, and Carolina Stone Craftsman was where we were referred to go. And I'm telling you, we have not looked back ever since. We toured their showroom, which is absolutely amazing. We've been watching them in the construction of their outdoor showroom. And I had a great conversation with them, and they explained to us their commitment to affordable marble and granite and quartz. And I'm telling you, everything was done professionally, from coming by and measuring, visiting the showroom, making the selections. They were very helpful in guiding us as to what might be the best options for our bathrooms, and we couldn't be more thrilled with the process. I'm telling you, if you need a countertop for your kitchen or bath, reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. Family owned and operated, Carolina Stone Craftsman, just beyond Columbia in Chapin and beyond your expectations. I will assure you of that. CarolinaStoneCraftsman.com. Visit them today. No accidents that we're reporting at this time. Some congestion there on I-26 eastbound around mile marker 102, kind of standard, but there is a little extra this morning. Aside from that, nothing else to let you know about, and we welcome that for sure. 87, that's going to be our high today. 88 tomorrow, 87 on Friday before maybe a few thunderstorms for your Saturday, but getting some tastes of summer right now. Currently, it's warming up and the sun keeps trying to peek out. It is 64 on 107.5 The Game.
Hour 3 on your final day of April. I think that's just part of getting older. It seems like time flies faster and faster. We have motored through January, February, March, and April, through college football, the end of college football season, through college basketball season, March Madness, the Masters, the Heritage, spring games. Now we're into the playoffs. It is amazing how fast we move, and that is a wild, wild time. Speaking of how fast we move, this coming Saturday, I'll be 43 years old. I will be 43. I'm getting up there. The knees are not working quite like they used to. Ankles, joints. So we have got a big weekend, and we'll talk. I want to talk with Preston tomorrow, Jen, more about the Kentucky Derby, and get ready for that, because there's two really. You're not an F1 girl, really. You don't. F1 is not really your cup of tea now, is it?
No, I mean, if I get a chance to watch a race, I enjoy it, but I don't follow it nearly as much because I think it is so obscene as far as the amount of money, and there's just been not a lot of there's been a dominant team, and that's kind of it.
Yes,
so
yes.
it just, to me, is not as fun, but I admire the craftsmanship of the cars and everything goes into it. But yeah, I don't follow it nearly as much.
It's amazing how my life works, where if you put sports on, like early in the morning when I wake up, I will get into it. It's part of the reason I got into Premier League soccer, because you could wake up and at like 8 or 11 it's on. It helped that Austin was playing soccer a couple years ago, and then Tony Annan. It's kind of like you've got me into NASCAR, and you've pushed me, and I now kind of go out of my way to watch the Sunday afternoon race and really enjoy it. Tony Annan's pushed me, Austin's pushed me into soccer. Well, F1 comes on when they're across, when they're elsewhere. You can usually wake up on ESPN and turn it on. I am kind of interested and want to go down this path, maybe with Preston tomorrow. Niche sports. You got two great events this weekend, and I don't know which one. If you said, Bill, we'll give you free tickets to either one. F1 in Miami, because that would be really cool, or the Kentucky Derby. I think I'd go Derby, but I really feel like going to an F1 race would be really cool.
Yeah, the F1 race would definitely be cool. I think, to me, the Kentucky Derby, you're there for the pomp and the circumstance and the social, and I know there's probably other events that go on, but the race is what, a minute and a half? Seems like a lot of.
There's races all day long, but then it leads up, obviously, to the very big one that we all tune in at, like, I don't know, 6:12 or 6:17, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's a day of, again, activities and stuff, but I don't know. I wouldn't mind going to both. So one year, one the next.
That's what it's kind of two, again, niche things that I think you're going to experience the environment, maybe not take in the actual event, if that does that make sense? Like the actual what you're there, you're supposed to see. Yeah. You're there for like the party and to see all the people and to see everything. So
try the drinks.
Well, that's right, definitely. But we'll talk maybe more about that tomorrow. Last night, South Carolina baseball, they win. That's the goal. They win. They knock off Charleston Southern. Look, South Carolina baseball. There's just not stuff that we can really say about them. They got to go 8-1 over the final 9 conference games to even be in consideration. They got to get to 13-17. That's what we said a couple weeks ago. And they've got to get to 13 and 17 to even be considered for the NCAA tournament. That would mean sweeping either Florida, Auburn, or sweeping 2 out of Florida, Auburn, or LSU, and winning the other series. And given that Auburn is now number 10 in the D1 baseball, I think it was D1 baseball rankings, and LSU is number 2, and one of those series is on the road at Auburn. And given what we've seen from South Carolina, I think we can all be realistic and say that the season is all but over. But last night, they do win 5-3. And after the game, Paul Mainieri updated the statuses of Ethan Petrie and Nathan Hall. Here's what he had to say.
Well, Ethan's situation is more, I don't know if serious is the right word, debilitating than Nathan's. He's got what they call a strain of the AC joint in his left shoulder. It was such a freak injury. You know, if you've watched the video of it, the ball took kind of a funny bounce, and he was kind of ready to play it. And when it took that funny bounce, he kind of accelerated to try to field the ball and rammed his left shoulder into the wall. But that injury, it's probably 2 to 4 weeks to heal. So there's a good chance that he's done for the year, but maybe he'll get back for the last series or the SEC tournament. We'll have to see. In Nathan's case, remember when he hurt his heel at Texas A&M going after a home run ball? He whacked his heel. It's never really completely gone away, and I probably won't until he rests it completely. And this past weekend, Kentucky has an artificial turf field, and it's particularly hard. There's not a sand base to it. And I worried about his heel pounding on that hard ground all weekend. And about 2/3 of the way through the game on Sunday, I could start to see him limping when he'd run out the center field, for a new inning. So I wasn't really surprised on Monday when he couldn't run at all. And we practiced on Monday, and he couldn't participate. So I didn't expect it to be any better or much better by today. So I almost put him in as a pinch hitter at one point, just have him jog to first base, but the situation ended up not calling for it. So he's taking batting practice and everything. We just got to see how it feels over the next couple of days, and hopefully a couple of days rested, and we'll be feeling better for him by Friday. Hopefully he'll be able to play.
And that's a shame with Nathan Hall. But I'd say the bigger thing, big picture, given what we think is likely going to finish out with this team, big picture on this is truthfully what the news about Ethan Petrie, because it's probably the last time we've seen him in a Gamecock uniform. I guess, as you heard there, Paul Mainieri saying he could conceivably maybe get back for the SEC tournament. You heard him say 2 to 4 weeks. Obviously, there's 3 weekends left in the 4 weeks left, I guess, if you want to count the SEC tournament, although that's not actually a weekend event. But 2 things about Ethan Petrie. That could possibly mean that he's done for his Gamecock career. We don't expect him back. And the other thing that's a little bit of a shame is that puts a screeching halt to him pursuing Justin Smoke's career home run record. And maybe there's some people out there who are like, all right, well, Smoke does that's good. Let's keep Smoke up there, which understandable. He was a fan favorite. But a shame for Ethan Petrie. And again, when I'm telling you, South Carolina's got to go 8-1 over the final 9 in conference games, and now you're missing your best player, your best hitter in Ethan Petrie, and you're missing Nathan Hall. I would say that task is exceptionally tall. But baseball wins last night. Softball won also. Ashley Chastain Woodard, congratulations to them. They run Rule Furman last night, 10-2 over at Beckham Field. The incredible season continues right now for the ball club, and they will get set for Alabama. That'll start tomorrow night. Thursday, Friday, Saturday series will be the final series of the season for South Carolina before they get ready to head over to Athens, Georgia for the SEC tournament that will start up next week. That will get going next Tuesday over in Athens. But the Gamecocks have a chance to close out the regular season in style against Alabama. Ashley Chastain Woodard has just been absolutely phenomenal here right now. 37-13 is a key series. They need to win the series this weekend against Alabama to clinch a winning conference record. They are 11-10 in conference, and so obviously you can have a above 500 record with a 2-1 series victory there. You go 1-2, you finish 12-12. I think they'd love to finish conference play with a winning record, so you got to at least take 2 from Alabama this coming weekend, but good luck to them, and we'll keep you updated on that as well. Also, the big news in South Carolina world yesterday, the return, the getting spit back out. I don't know what happened with Cam Scott. He jumped in the portal, and the portal threw him back out. Cam Scott announcing yesterday he will return to South Carolina to play for Lamont Paris. I got to admit, in terms of big picture, and we're going to be joined by Jamie Shaw coming up here in about 5 or 6 minutes of On3 Sports to discuss what he has not only seen, what he thinks of Cam Scott, but also what he thinks of the transfer portal class for South Carolina. Also, I'm going to ask him what his, a guy who follows it, a guy who understands it, I'm going to ask him what his expectations are for Eli Ellis coming up next season. But the return of Cam Scott, I'll be honest, in following it, I don't know what else was out there in the portal that South Carolina was going to grab. You're talking about grabbing a guy who obviously was a 4-star recruit, who was the top player in the state of South Carolina. Very fair to say didn't come close to living up to what was expected of him last year. But this is a guy that does have potential. He's got to learn to play better defense. He's going to have to get more physical. Maybe the biggest surprise last year, he just lost confidence and struggled shooting the basketball. But I don't think getting Cam Scott back is a bad thing. I mean, again, the numbers there, if I was to tell you, well, South Carolina's bringing in a former 4-star recruit from, let's just say, Wake Forest, or you get some school that's similar to South Carolina who averaged 2.5 points and 1.3 rebounds in 10 minutes, you'd probably roll your eyes. But given, I guess, that we know Cam from Lexington High School, that the potential, many of you might have seen him play in high school, the potential is there. It's good to have him back to fit in with this roster to help out, and we'll kind of see what they elect to do with him and how they kind of improve his game and what kind of offseason he has. Get him in that weight room, man, with Scott Greenwald. Get him in there and let him go to town, get bigger, get stronger, gain his confidence back, and it's a good pickup. But we'll talk with Jamie Shaw coming up next. Jamie Shaw with On3 Sports, basketball recruiting analyst. We'll talk about what he expects from Cam Scott, what he expects from Eli Ellis, and what he also thinks about the rest of South Carolina's current transfer portal class. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's that proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. And if you need them, guess what? They're there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't matter if you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, Charleston, Greenville. You get the point. They help the entire state. But most importantly, again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Mid-State Roofing is ready to take your phone call. If you give them a phone call at, say, 6 a.m., you'll speak with an on-call technician. If you give them a phone call now at 8:12, you'll speak with a Mid-State Roofing employee. Just give them that phone call, 803-356-1919. You can visit them on the web for more information. That's midstateroofing.com. But again, make the phone call. Get yourself a maintenance contract, 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
All clear as far as accidents are concerned. I hope your morning commute is going well. And as far as your forecast goes, that's going well for sure. 87 for the high today, 88 tomorrow, 87 for Friday. A couple storms rolling in for Saturday. Could see a high of about 84. A little bit cooler on Sunday. 78 will be our high. But again, starting to kind of trip into a little more summer-like temperatures. Currently overcast, and it's about 63 on the early game.
$8:17 here on a Wednesday morning. Want to let you know you can go hang out with Tyler Head and the gang coming up in just a little while. Schroeder's Road Show, say that 3 times fast, over at Firehouse Subs on Forest Lake Drive today. So get out and go see the Gamecock Central guys, see Tyler, see Jack, see everybody, as they will be over at Forest Lake Drive at the Firehouse Subs for the Schroeder's Road Show later on after us. Joined now by Jamie Shaw of On3 Sports. South Carolina yesterday. Getting news, Jamie, getting news. Cam Scott will be back. I said in the last segment, if I was to say, hey, we're taking a former four-star transfer from, and I used Wake Forest as an example, who averaged 2.5 points per game and 1.3 rebounds in 10 minutes per game last year, I don't know how many people would be excited. Cam Scott might be a little bit different. Your thoughts on Cam Scott announcing that he will leave the portal and come back to South Carolina?
Well, I think it's a very intriguing play. Obviously, former four-star, one of the better, more accoladed players coming out of South Carolina the last 5 or so years in the state championship, multiple Gatorade Players of the Year, 2,000 career points, multiple all-state teams, et cetera, et cetera. Last year, he was getting his feet wet. It's all about confidence. It's all about that. It's up to him. We all know he has talent. We all know he's a former top 50 recruit. We've all seen what he's able to do when he's playing confidently and when he's out there on the floor. I think it's good to have continuity within a roster year over year. There's an understanding of what comes from demands. There's an understanding of what comes from on the court and all that. And there's no doubting Cam Scott's talent level. Now it's just a matter of going out, not only putting in the work, but having the confidence to be able to go out there and get it done. Yeah.
Okay, expound on that a little bit. What happened, in your opinion, last year? Because we had heard he'd kind of been talked up in preseason. You just mentioned it, the talent level. What do you think kind of went sideways for him last year?
Well, it's one of those things where you get in the mix, you get in the situations, and one thing doesn't go your way, and then another thing, and then all of a sudden you're doubting yourself. The speed of the game's high. There's pressure to win, hometown. All this type of stuff getting on top of one another, and you just can't quite find your rhythm. You just can't quite find the footing that it takes, because naturally going from a high school setting to a college setting takes sports out of the equation. It's a difficult transition for most people. It was for me, at least. You adding all of the other stuff on top of it, just couldn't quite find the footing. And while other people were having success, they were getting the minutes, and then you just find yourself further down the depth chart as it goes along. I think personally it was strictly a confidence thing. It wasn't a talent issue. It wasn't any of that. It was just a confidence thing. So I think there's a bright upside provided everything else falls into place.
So what? Now we'll wrap up the Cam Scott conversation. What is your expectation? What do you think is a fair expectation for him on this, with what we know about this roster right now? Meechie Johnson coming back, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But what do you think is a fair expectation for him next season?
Well, the thing about this roster with the players they got was Meechie coming back, Kobe Knox, Sheriff Jamps, all those coming in. They don't need Cam Scott to be great, so he's able to kind of come along at his own pace. Now, that could be a rapid pace, or that could be, taking gradual steps. but they don't need him to be a world beater from day one. So that takes a little bit of the pressure off, obviously, which could build confidence as well.
So that's the Cam Scott thing. Let's look around at the rest of this transfer portal and what you've seen them add, how it fits Lamont Paris's style is the very first question. Because, boy, yeah, I know you have to get on message boards. That's all we've heard about. Lamont Paris's style, right fits, right? Like Talon Cooper and B.J. Mack, they fit. They were great. Oh, Jamari Thomas and Nick Pringle, bad fits last year. That was the problem. Give me your take on what you've seen so far and how it fits.
Well, I think as we watched last year's season, as you look at it, I think it was, by all accounts, it wasn't a very good season. But the one thing that you can kind of take away from that is, or maybe two things, but they kind of play into one another. They played defense, and they didn't quit. So there's a lot of want to kind of on that talent, on that roster. While the talent might not have been as good as other teams that they were playing against, they were within games. Looking at Lamont Paris's best season 2 years ago, what he had was guys who could make plays with the ball in their hands. Last year, they didn't necessarily have that. Guys that didn't necessarily move the ball, process the play, and guys who hadn't this team coming in, they have guys who have won before. You have guys like Norton Cappick coming in, a five-man average 10 a game for an NCAA tournament team at UC San Diego. He can make a play with the ball in his hands. He was an all-SEC type of player 2 years ago. He can make a play with the ball in his hand. Mike Sherjamps, he's going to be an interesting factor for this team because he's 6'8" and will probably be the primary initiator for this team, coming in. He can make a play with the ball in his hands. Kobe Knox coming in from USF, 10 a game last year, can make a play with the ball. So what Lamont Paris is going to have this year that he might not necessarily have had last year is he's going to be able to put five guys on the floor that are going to be able to make a play with the ball in their hands in their area on the offensive end.
He's Jamie Shaw with On3 Sports, head recruiting basketball analyst there for On3. You can check him out on Twitter as well. Just go and search him. Jamie Shaw. Is it Jamie Shaw 5? Am I thinking? I didn't have that pulled up. Yeah, Jamie Shaw 5.
Yeah, Jamie Shaw 5.
Jamie Shaw 5. Make sure you follow him there for a lot of basketball recruiting updates. So that's the transfer portal aspect of it. You know this, again, as I mentioned, message boards and everybody. Boy, the excitement for Eli Ellis. All right, what is fair for us to expect? I tell you what, do this real quick. Explain Overtime Elite basketball, because we get a lot of questions about this and how it differs, rules, even defense, how it differs a little bit from maybe, say, your regular high school basketball.
Well, the Overtime Elite League is, I guess, a different avenue that came in for kids during COVID. Initially during COVID, they came in as a professional type of outlet. They have since transitioned back into the high school range of things, having a league of maybe 6 or 7 different teams. Eli played in that. What they have done is they kind of cater toward the fans. They make the game up tempo. They make it fun. They've added different rules and wrinkles in there that add to a fan experience. You go down there to the Overtime Elite Arena in Atlanta, lights and sounds and, music and all types of fun. So what they've done is they built the league kind of around an experience for the fans. And when it comes to in-game, they'll have in-game interviews. They'll have, referees mic'd up and all that type of stuff to be able to make the viewership a little bit, exciting.
So how does Eli Ellis's game, in your opinion, from what you've seen, translate from Overtime Elite or from the AAU circuit to the University of South Carolina? Because a lot of people will say, well, look, Cam Scott, look at what he did. He was a top 50 recruit, but it didn't pan out. So how do you see Eli Ellis translating as a freshman next year to South Carolina?
Well, looking at Eli's game, I mean, he's somebody who's kind of proven himself at every level. He's been playing varsity basketball since 6th grade. You see him go from 8th to 9th grade, playing, people didn't think he would succeed there, and he got even better. He goes from high school playing for Moravian to AAU. People didn't think he would succeed, and he got even better. Go from AAU to the Overtime Elite circuit. He was the last pick in the Overtime Elite draft his first year there, and got even better. The next year, he was MVP of the league. So he's somebody who has had doubters every step of the way, and he is somebody who has overachieved in every aspect. So that laying the backdrop of what it is, he doesn't need to come in next year, I don't think, and actually be a star. Again, just like the Cam Scott conversation we had earlier, you know, they have Michi Johnson, they have Mike Sheriff-Jumps, they have Kobe Knox, they have Norton Kaepernick, they have Elijah Strong. They have players in place that can get the lion's share of minutes and play well to where Eli can come along at his own pace. Now, obviously, going from high school to college, there's a strength difference, there's a speed of the game difference, there's a processing difference, and all that type of stuff. Eli's a tough, mentally tough person. He can shoot the ball. He can do all that. Having Mike Sheriff-Jumps come in, who's a 6'8", 6'9" lead guard, having Michi Johnson there, who can kind of take some of the initiation duties as well, you know, will allow Eli to carve his own space and play as much as the transition allows him to.
Just about a minute and a half left with Jamie Shaw. Again, check him out on Twitter, Jamie Shaw 5. You can check out all his work on On3 Sports. It's also Gamecock Central. Jamie, big picture for next year for Lamont Paris. We've seen 2 bad seasons, 1 great season. What is your prospects for this team as you know it, and what is your thoughts on how important next season is for Lamont Paris's tenure at South Carolina?
I think it's very important. You come in. One thing that this team is going to have is they're going to be improved offensively. They're going to have 5 guys on the court. They're going to be able to make a play with the ball in their hands. This last year's team did not have that. They're still going to be able to have the defensive concepts and play tough. He's going to get them to play. All of Mont Paris's team, all 3 years, are going to they played hard. They played physical. They played, you know, with confidence and within the game and all that type of stuff. So I think they're somewhere in the middle of the great season he had 2 years ago and last year's season as well. And I think it's big to continue to show improvement year over year that you have on the basketball court, especially with the SEC as good and talented as it is right now.
Jamie, always appreciate it. You got phenomenal work, man. Appreciate you carving out time for us this morning to join us, and we will certainly be catching up with you later on in the summer just to kind of get an update on where the next recruiting class is going for Lamont Paris.
Bill, you're awesome. Thank you for everything you do, man, and keep being great.
I appreciate it, buddy. Good to hear from you. Jamie Shaw, again, On3 Sports. That would be Gamecock Central. You can check out his work there. Does a great job. Worked with him previously when I was doing basketball scouting, and he does an absolutely phenomenal job keeping everybody updated on not just recruiting but talent evaluations as well. Again, make sure you check him out on Twitter. Jamie Shaw, SHAW 5 is how you can do that. We'll come back, get back into some football discussion. Paul Feinbaum was on the radio the other day. I guess he's always on the radio, isn't he? For some reason, we put him on TV. But you can also, we will let you hear. He talked about his optimistic teams for 2025. South Carolina was included. We'll talk about that. You're listening to The Early Game. Bill Gunner for Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. Now, you've heard me talk about cleaning the carpets, and that is extremely important. With their patented ZR water technology, scientifically proven to keep the carpets, the rugs, the tile, the upholstery all insanely clean. You need to give them a phone call for that. But what about your air ducts, especially coming off of the winter, coming off of all the pollen? Well, guess what? It's time to get rid of the dust and pollen in your home. And the easy way to do it is with Zerorez. That's right. They do that as well. Just picture it. The Zerorez pros come in, dust, pollen, allergens, they go out. And right now, if you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, you'll get $50 off your next air duct cleaning. That's right. You heard that right. $50 off. Just mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. You can give them a phone call, 803-262-4020. You can schedule online, ZerorezColumbia.com. Use the promo code AIR. AIR50 when scheduling online. Call Zerorez today, 803-262-4020. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards, is the right way to clean.
I-20 eastbound, mile marker 60. There, the left lane is currently blocked due to an accident, so going to want to stay right there. Again, that's I-20 eastbound at mile marker 60. Aside from that, things moving along fairly well this morning. 87, that's the high we're looking forward today. 88 tomorrow. And maybe some rain coming up on Saturday. A chance for a few storms then with a high of 84 right now. It's sun's peeking out yet again. It's about 64 currently on 107.5 The Game. Yeah.
Thank you to Jamie Shaw. A lot of good information there. And I'll get that tweeted out so that you can re-listen if you're just tuning in. Didn't catch it. Jamie Shaw with On3 Sports giving us some good information there this morning on both the return of Cam Scott, the expectations for Cam Scott, the expectations for Eli Ellis, a lot of stuff there, and we'll get that up. Jen does a great job getting it on the podcast page, and I'll get it tweeted out here later on in case you missed it. You want to hop on the treadmill later on and listen. Does a phenomenal job. Jen has already got the David Waters interview up from earlier where we talked SEC coaches rankings, USA Today. Blake Topmeyer has an article out. I'll get back into that in just a second. Also, we're going to listen to some Paul Feinbaum and talk a little football. But first, we love you. We love you out there. We want to give you tickets. Jen, what do we got?
We have, I guess I'm not going to qualify as being like the voice guy at The Price is Right or something like that, but, I'll at least give it a shot. We have a family pack of 4 tickets for the Fireflies versus Hickory tonight at 7:05. We actually have 2 sets of 4 packs. So let's go ahead and give those away now. 803-404-6100. Callers 4 and 5.
4 and 5. Callers 4 and 5. You can win a family 4-pack of tickets to tonight's Fireflies Hickory game. Jen, let's play this real quick. This is Paul Feinbaum yesterday talking about which teams he's optimistic about in 2025. And South Carolina's included in there.
I feel really good about Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma has got it together, from a quarterback standpoint, from an offensive coordinator standpoint, both of whom, of course, came from Washington State. I think they filled in some gaps. And I think Brent Venables realized that he just wasn't quite prepared for the SEC. Also, I think bringing in somebody you guys know, Jim Nagy, from the Senior Bowl may have been the best move of the offseason. I talked to NFL people a lot and college administrators, and everyone is raving about him. Another school I really like is South Carolina. Lenore Sellers is at the very top rung of quarterback, so I expect them to make a tremendous difference. On the other side, I think you have to be worried about Tennessee. I know that I'm probably not breaking a news story here, but what is the quarterback situation really going to be like? Listen, Aguilar is serviceable. They have 2 backups who have no experience, but I think that's a tremendous drop-off. And considering Georgia is right out of the chute, at Alabama, at Florida, you have to be a little bit worried about them. Another school, by the way, I feel better about than I have in a while is Auburn. I think Hugh Freeze has made some very, very important decisions really from a recruiting standpoint. I'm incredibly impressed with what Auburn has done. And one more, just to keep piling on here on the plus side, is the fact that Alabama retained its roster in the spring. To me, is one of the best examples of confidence in Kalen DeBoer. I think the way this spring went was significant. The schedule is a little tricky, but I think DeBoer has to feel very good that he held on to everyone.
All right, let's start with this. Obviously, he mentioned South Carolina, very high on them, and for the for the reasons that we all know. Lenore Sellers considered one of the top returning quarterbacks in the league. I mean, quite frankly, I know that Arch Manning is going to get a lot of love and get the attention and all kinds of things. But Lenore Sellers is more proven than Arch Manning. You can say the same thing for DJ Lagway, by the way, also. So no real surprise there. South Carolina, we mentioned this is honestly why, and I knew it was kind of irrelevant, but I still said that bowl game was kind of important. Can you imagine if South Carolina had won that bowl game, had 10 wins, had finished probably inside the top 10, the kind of love they would be getting now? That right now they're kind of a fringe loving team, right? They're getting national attention. Lenore Sellers is getting the Heisman hype, but he's a little bit further down. Oof, that's why I said if you win that bowl game, it does make recruiting, it makes everything easier. And by the way, and I said this during spring, I really like the way Shane Beamer has handled this spring. It's just, to me, it's a program under a coach finding itself. Don't get me wrong. I love the Full House videos, the Office parodies, all the things. But you're seeing a little bit less and less of that. I really think that they're settling in and handling what is going to be a season with exceptionally high expectations. It seems like they are handling the offseason very well. You don't kind of see some of the stuff that we've seen in the past. And I really like the way Shane Beamer's going about doing that. And I think it shows a maturity, not just of him, but a maturity of the actual program. And that's a good thing. So we'll see. He mentioned Oklahoma. I would differ with him on that. John Mateer comes from Washington State, dual threat quarterback. I'm not sold on Brent Venables. I don't know in this league if you can be – I just don't know if you can be a defensive-minded coach that succeeds. Maybe I'm scarred. I got a big scar from the Will Muschamp era. That followed the Steve Spurrier offensive-minded era. But – I don't know if you can do that. Now, I think Brent Venables is a heck of a defensive coach, but I don't know if that is something that can work. And I'm not as high on Oklahoma as, say, Paul Feinbaum there. He mentioned Tennessee. He's down on Tennessee. I think that's really interesting. Josh Heupel, we mentioned it in these rankings. Josh Heupel is a guy that is ranked 6th in USA Today. This is, again, Blake Topmeyer's 16 coach ranking here. Kirby Smart 1, Steve Sarkisian 2, Brian Kelly 3, Kalen DeBoer 4, Lane Kiffin 5, and he's got Josh Heupel 6. Let me read you what Blake Topmeyer says about Josh Heupel. Heupel delivered Tennessee's first playoff appearance last season, and that doesn't even rank as his best accomplishment. He beat rival Alabama twice in 4 years. Heupel's up-tempo offense puts opponents in conflict. That system, combined with his composure, proved just what Tennessee needed after the mess predecessor Jeremy Pruitt made. While it's reasonable to wonder whether Heupel's hit the ceiling exceeds what the Vols sniffed for 2 decades. So even there, you hear questions about, has Josh Heupel maxed out the Tennessee program? And now you're going to go with Joey. I assume they're going to go with Joey Aguilar, who they just traded to get from UCLA, essentially. They do have some good young quarterbacks there on the roster, but it is a fair question. Tennessee lost a lot of talent. I mean, they're fine. They've been recruiting well, but they did lose a lot of talent. And I mentioned sneaky good game to open the season. Tennessee will play Fran Brown and Syracuse. By the way, if you didn't see, Cam Pringle, former Gamecock offensive line Cam Pringle, announced yesterday his commitment to Syracuse. So he's going up north to play for Fran Brown. But keep an eye on that opening game. That's a sneaky good game. Syracuse seems to be getting better. They've got some confidence about them. They did lose Kyle McCord. He was just in the NFL draft. But Tennessee and Syracuse play on opening weekend over at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So that'll kind of be the kickoff of whatever it is, Chick-fil-A kickoff weekend that South Carolina will participate in on Sunday. But Tennessee going down. And I read you that coaching breakdown from, again, Blake Topmeyer on USA Today, and he says, has Tennessee hit the ceiling? Look, we talked with David Waters earlier. We talked about South Carolina and Florida maybe hooking back up here in a few years. Well, probably in 2026, we'll see Tennessee back on the schedules. We rotate teams on and off. So just a thought there, and when you hear Paul Feinbaum say that he's down on Tennessee a little bit, I would also push back. It just seems like Auburn and Hugh Freeze are a big mess. It just feels like they are a big mess down there. They're spinning their wheels. They tried something gigantic, and it hasn't necessarily panned out in the manner that they hoped. But a little college football talk. We'll come back. We'll wrap everything up. A nice bow to put on the end of April. Final day of April. Then we transition to May. May flowers and all that. And then we got May the 4th. Be with you. Yeah, you get Cinco de Mayo. You get the point. A lot happening here as we wrap up the month of April. Hope you're having a beautiful morning. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. All right, tax season. I just mentioned things wrapping up here. Tax season pretty much wrapping up, hopefully. If not, hopefully it is for you. Hopefully you're not receiving one of those mean, nasty notices from the IRS. They're out. They're out to get you right now. And if you've received something from them, you or your business could be in a little bit of trouble. So all you got to do is call the superheroes with Ecton Law Firm. They have a local team dedicated to resolving your income or business tax issues for good. So give them a phone call, 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. Look, time is limited. Time is of the essence. Don't wait around. If you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, if you're anywhere in this great state and you've received a mean, nasty notice from the IRS, give them a phone call today. 803-771-9800. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Final few minutes of the program. Thank you again to David Waters. Follow him on Twitter, at GatorDave_SEC. I'll get that up on the Twitter here in a few minutes as we talked with him this morning. Caught up a little bit about the Florida Gators. Mostly it was about Billy Napier on the USA Today coaching rankings being 15th, which, again, if you've listened to the program, you know we give Billy Napier some grief here. We have laughed about that and whatnot. I don't think he should be 15th on the list, though. I don't think he should be behind behind Sam Pittman and Clark Lee. But that made for interesting fodder. We also talked about the SEC and kind of some of the things going on around the league. Again, that coaching list that I mentioned, you can go to USA Today and check it out. It's Blake Topmeyer. The first three, okay. Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian, Brian Kelly. For pure transparency, I was a big Brian Kelly fan at Notre Dame. I thought he was a great coach at Notre Dame. I thought he was one of the best in the country. And then he comes to the SEC, and he's good. He's a good coach. Would you have him at number 3? Does it feel like he's underachieved at LSU a little bit? LSU's a mega school. I mean, think about this. LSU's last 3 head coaches, Nick Saban, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron, their last 3 coaches have all won national championships. So, is Brian Kelly underachieving? It's kind of a question, but they've got him at number 3. Number 4 is, again, the guy, my next favorite coach, the guy that I thought at Washington was one of the best coaches in the country, and comes to Alabama and promptly loses to Vanderbilt and some other teams. Should have lost to South Carolina. But Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer is number 4 on that list, and I still think DeBoer's a really good coach. Number 5 on the list, USA Today's Blake Topmeyer's rankings, Lane Kiffin. And I think it's fair to question, has Lane Kiffin kind of maxed out what Mississippi is? Big year for him, I think, in terms of what we think of him as a head coach. Not a bad head coach, mind you. Not a bad head coach. But is he number 5 on the list? Number 6 is Josh Heupel. And you heard Paul Feinbaum in the previous segment ask, or mention that he thinks Josh Heupel in Tennessee may be trending down. In this particular article that is written, it says it's reasonable to wonder if Heupel has hit the ceiling at Tennessee. Number 7 on the list, Eli Drinkowitz. All right, well, we don't like him, but you know what? No problem. I do think Drink is a good coach. I think he's done some good things at Missouri. Number 8 on the list is Shane Beamer. And Shane Beamer's got 2 9-win seasons in his first 4 seasons. He's got 2 wins against Clemson. He's got wins over top 10 teams. I think 8 is fair. I think if you wanted to make an argument that he's up there a little higher, I'd be okay with that. Rebuilding from some of the Will Muschamp era, restoring energy and excitement into the football program. You want to tell me that he's maybe 6th or even 5th? I'm okay with that. 8 seems right for right now, but I could get on board with that. Number 9 is Mike Elko, which, again, 1 season, 8-win season, and you put him at number 9. Number 10 on the list, Mark Stoops. Number 11, Brent Venables. Number 12, Hugh Freeze. 13, Clark Lee. 14, Sam Pittman. 15, Billy Napier. And 16, Jeff Lebby. And I say all that, look, as I say, as y'all know, it is talking season. It's list season. We're going to get all kinds of these things coming out as we flip the calendar from April to May, and we will debate and analyze, overanalyze, read between the lines each and every one. So I appreciate David Waters for joining me from GatorBreakdown.com. You can follow that website for anything you want to see with what's going on with Florida. And also thank you to Jamie Shaw. The big news yesterday, Cam Scott coming back from the transfer portal. And as we said, all right, if I just told you South Carolina landed a former 4-star recruit from Wake Forest or Virginia or Georgia who averaged 2.5 points a game, a rebound, played 10 minutes a game, you'd probably be like, ooh, okay, that's what we're dealing with. But I feel like because it's Cam Scott, because he won a state championship, because he was the top player in the state of South Carolina, top 50 recruit, maybe we give him a little more leeway and it'll be more interesting. Jamie Shaw with On3 Sports, big thank you to him. He joined us earlier, and I will tweet that out as well because there's a lot of good information in there on both Cam Scott, also on Eli Ellis, on what he thinks on the transfer portal, and he gave people reason to believe that Lamont Paris's team in 2025, 2026 will be different. He talked about having guys, playmakers with the ball in their hands. So a lot of really good content today. Preston Thorne will be back tomorrow. We'll do some chop talk. We'll do our Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge. May have Chris Deering as well tomorrow for high school highlights of the week. Lexington hired a new basketball coach. Jen, I think we survived.
I think we did.
We'll do it again tomorrow then.
All righty.